Oprah says Gayle is getting death threats over Kobe questions. Demands increase for justice after an ICE agent shoots a man in Brooklyn. And Kobe and Gianna's memorial details have been announced today on the Diamond K Show. Welcome back to the Diamond K Show, episode 385, and we are here, Radio on Fire. And, you know, so many things going on. We talked about this yesterday, and I'm going to say I'm not feeling sorry for Oprah Winfrey, best friends, and some people like myself think maybe more, but best friends, Oprah and Gayle. Oprah was getting teared up. She was, having the water in her eyes when speaking about her best friend. Is that normal behavior when you're speaking about your best friend? Well, I guess if your best friend's getting death threats, maybe. But Oprah got choked up when she said that Gayle King had been receiving death threats after her CBS This Morning interview with Kobe's longtime friend, the WNBA player Lisa Leslie. So, of course, it's been all over everywhere. The CBS network promoting the interview with a clip that focused on Gayle speaking about his 2003 sexual assault case. Harsh criticism coming from Kobe Bryant fans and friends devastated by his recent death. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but Kobe not even put to rest yet. The memorial service hasn't even happened yet, and she found the need to speak about this. Here's the thing. She wants to blame the network for the way they chose to promote it, but she did mention these things. It's not like they brought up some stuff and they hinted and it's clickbait and she didn't really say anything about it. She brought it up. Now, she tries to cover herself by saying it was a wide-ranging conversation and that was something that came up in the conversation. But whatever. Oprah said that Gayle is not doing well, and she said that the death threats are such that she now has to travel with security. She's feeling very much attacked. Well, she shouldn't have opened her mouth in a disrespectful way about a beloved person. All right. And anyway, but Oprah wanted to go on NBC today with Jenna and Huda and talk about this. But she said that Gayle has not slept for 2 days, which is interesting because how does Oprah know if Gayle has slept? Like, I got best friend, right? I don't know if he's awake or if he's asleep. I don't know if he's been sleeping for 2 days unless Oprah and Gayle was right there with each other. No wonder Stedman can't come in the damn house. But she says, but it will be okay. She added that her friend was put in a really terrible position. Maybe if Oprah got some of these death threats about Michael Jackson and Russell Simmons, she would be falling back with some of the stuff she's doing. Maybe this might be a lesson for Oprah, and maybe she may pull back on some of the stuff she's doing because she sees how people are reacting to Kobe. Maybe. She said she was put in a terrible position. Not that she put herself in a terrible position. It's amazing the way that these women deflect blame, refuse to take responsibility, but they will sit in a seat and interview people. And if people that they interview ducked and dodged their responsibilities the way that they do, they wouldn't accept that. But Oprah continued with her defense of her best friend. It was only because somebody at the network put up that clip. And I can see how people would obviously be very upset if you thought that Gayle was trying to press to get an answer from Lisa Leslie. She was. Okay, the clip is a clip, right? It wasn't a heavily edited clip. It was a specific clip. But she was put in a position. They showed part of the interview that people would be reacting to. So to sit here and act like Gayle is just some innocent victim, you know what I mean? Let's keep in mind she's a sarcastic. I don't want to call her out her name, but she's sarcastic. I got to go back to the interview with R. Kelly when she's like, Robert, you know what I mean? She just oozes with sarcasm. And the fact that she's sitting up with her bonnet on and her pajamas and she's crying on Oprah's shoulder, I am not feeling sorry for her at all. And I know it's a terrible sight to see anyway. But Gayle King posted a video on Thursday explaining how the clip of her asking Leslie about Brian's 2003 rape allegation was taken out of context. How do you take it out of context? Why are you even bringing it up, right? You know, if Oprah was the past and somebody starts, going back and talk about, remember the time when you got raped by such and such? I mean, it's just like, why are you bringing that up, right? Why would you bring that up? Of all the things, right? You don't bring up the worst experience in a person's life. And then on top of that, this accuser of Kobe Bryant was lying. Okay, she was lying, right? She wasn't lying. Why did she took money. She was lying. If you're a real victim, you would have took no money just to not talk about your case, right? If you was telling the truth, you wouldn't have did it, right? But whatever. So as I said, Gayle describing her conversation as a wide-ranging interview, right? She thought she was going to get some award for that? No, I don't think so. But if you're feeling sorry for Gayle, maybe you drop her a line in her DM until you're feeling sorry for her, or not. It's a free country, so you can say what you want to say. I don't care what Oprah feels about it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. On the other side, you listen to the Diamond K Show, Radio on Fire. We'll be back after this.
If you love somebody, come on, put your hands up. And if you lost somebody, come on, put your hands up. If you love somebody, come on, put your hands up. And if you lost somebody, come on, put your hands up. If you love somebody, come on, put your hands up.
The Diamond K Radio on Fire. So, we were talking about Kobe Bryant and the comments of Gayle King and Oprah trying to defend her. But we also got notice of the celebration of life for Kobe and Gianna Bryant, which will take place on February 24th at the Staples Center, 10 a.m. Radio on Fire will be streaming the service, but the significance of the date is something that I want to focus on. The 24th, obviously, the jersey number that Kobe wore was 24. His daughter wore the number 2, and so you have 224. So the symbolism there is very nice. She said that more details were to come for the service. It is a public service that's going to take place for her husband and her 13-year-old daughter, as we know, who were among 9 people that were killed when the helicopter crashed into a hillside in Calabasas on January 26th. So reports are now saying that the helicopter was just 100 feet from clear skies. It's just a sad state of affairs. But this will take place at the Staples Center. There was, some coordination that had to happen because the Clippers play that night. They're going to play the Memphis Grizzlies 7:30 at the Staples Center. But getting the court ready, they say it's not going to be a problem, and this is going to be a very sad, very, very sad, very emotional day for Los Angeles, the Lakers, the country, as well as you don't think about the men and women that actually work at these places to prepare it. It's going to be a lot going on, and the Lakers play the Boston Celtics on the day before at the Staples Center. And they're going to play the Pelicans the day after at the Staples Center. So it's going to be a lot going on. But we'll definitely keep you up to date on things as it relates to this and details as they are made available. You listen to the Diamond K Show, Radio on Fire. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back after this. Radio on Fire, your man Diamond K. Of course, on social media, I am at the Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of that good stuff. So there have been some demands for justice after ICE agents shoot a man in Brooklyn. And ICE is the police essentially, but these things can happen, and I definitely understand that. So a U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agent, aka ICE, shot a man in the face while serving a warrant earlier this week in Brooklyn. So law enforcement sources say that the man that was shot was not the suspect of the warrant. He was not the person that they were looking for. What happened is that they went in there to get one man, and they claimed that they were met with resistance. The man who they went in there to get, he was also tased, but the other person who was in the house as well, shot in the face, bullet entering his cheek and exiting his face. He is in critical condition. He's expected to live, so they're doing an investigation on that now. And it follows another shooting that happened at the hands of ICE earlier in the week. So some people are naturally and understandably, justifiably upset and have questions that they want answered. That's what's going on there. In another bit of, is it news? Really, is it? We're going to talk about an investigation is underway. Mayoral candidate and president of the city council and a volunteer or former volunteer for another campaign here in Baltimore. So now we're going to slow walk this. Okay. Brandon Scott was punched in the face by a volunteer for the campaign of Sheila Dixon. So both gentlemen have two separate stories, have two different accounts as to what happened. Now, for her part, let's say this, Sheila Dixon has condemned the volunteer. She wants to say volunteer because she was not paying this person at all. And she said that she has severed all ties with him. And if y'all need to prosecute him, she said, do that. She don't want nothing to do with it. So, on Wednesday of this week, there was a candidate forum at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum here in Baltimore downtown. So, Radio on Fire was present at this event. No, I did not punch Brandon Scott in the face. All right, so let me just put that out there. I had witnesses. I was sitting in my chair the whole time. So, here's how they are portraying the story. Brandon Scott said that he walked up to the Reginald F. Lewis Museum for the event, and he was confronted by a Dixon volunteer whose name is Michael T. Moore. He was wearing a red Dixon campaign vest. Okay. So if you've ever been to the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, there's like a walkway in the front. And at events like this, you have volunteers from campaigns outside, passing out literature, passing out flyers. You got signs out front. You have that whole thing. Just like when you go to vote. It's just like that. This event was just like that. So there were folks outside, passing out flyers and all that kind of stuff. So here's where the differing accounts begins. Okay. So the representatives for several candidates, as I said, were handing out the literature to people that were arriving or leaving the event. One of those people was someone who worked with the Dixon campaign. Okay. According to Brandon Scott, he said that he prevented me from going in. He pushed me and then he swings at me, said Brandon Scott, speaking of Moore. All right, it's interesting. So he's just passing out flyers and then he just randomly prevents you from going in. It's interesting. Doesn't sound logical, but that's interesting. So let's say this. Okay, we definitely don't want Brandon Scott to be hurt, which he is not. He said he was not hurt, and he said he filed the complaint with the police department alleging that he was assaulted. He said that the punch was not hard. He said it was light. He lightly pats my jaw. So like a love tap, you mean? Like anyway. So he says that. That's what he says happened. Okay. So, I have witnessed aggressive volunteers, and I'm going to give you Moore's account, and then we're going to dissect this a little bit. So the guy whose name, as I said, is Michael T. Moore. He says this. He said that he acknowledged that he punched Brandon Scott, but he said that the president of the city council assaulted him first. He said that this was in self-defense. He said that Brandon came out of nowhere, and pushed me in the back, trying to get into the building. And so, yes, I punched him in self-defense after he pushed me from behind. I was standing my ground. That's what he says. Now, I'm going to say this. Full transparency. I don't agree with Brandon Scott's politics. I don't particularly care for Brandon Scott. But I don't want that to get in the way of, it sounds to me like Moore's account is what happened. He probably was passing out flyers to someone else, and Brandon Scott wanted to get past, and maybe he pushed past him, and maybe Moore overreacted, because it sounds like he overreacted, and maybe he didn't mean to punch him, maybe he just took a swing, and it connected lightly, like Brandon Scott's saying. So I think that technically what both of them are saying is the facts, but they're both putting a different spin on it. So Brandon Scott looks at it like him standing there was blocking him from getting in, so that's why he pushed him. And Moore is saying he just pushed him, and maybe he didn't realize that he was blocking Brandon Scott. So, needless to say, no one was injured, no one was hurt. I'm not sure why he filed, because he stated that he wasn't hurt. He stated that it was a light, push, light jab. Why file an assault? Why do it? Right? That's what I want to know. Unless you're trying to get some sympathy from people, but you can't get sympathy and try to act tough. Like, I'm from Park Heights and went to Maryville, what I mean? And then you're filing this police report and you weren't even injured, because let's keep in mind, I was at this event. He spoke after this, right? Sheila Dixon spoke. They were they on stage together? Yeah, they were on stage together. And, Brandon Scott didn't look like anything was wrong with him or anything like that. To me, there was no need to file a police report, But regardless, Brandon Scott, let's say this, he disputes this. He says he has a witness. Okay. He said, in no way, this is someone who works for Senator Mary Washington. She said, in no way did Brandon do anything to provoke this. So here's my thing. Okay, so Brandon Scott's just walking up, and a guy just walks up to him and punches him in the face. Right? Is that what we're expecting? Is that what we're expecting people to believe? That's foolishness. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. I mean, yes, he has a big head like Gazoo, but that doesn't mean somebody's going to walk him and just punch him in the... It's just, nobody believes that. He tried to push past him for whatever reason, and because he's a little entitled little Mervo guy, and that's what happened. And the guy overreacted. Brandon Scott overreacted. I gotta get past. I didn't want none of your little flyers. You know what I mean? That's just what happened. All right, so they're gonna throw this guy Michael T. Moore, under the bus, and so a spokesman for the police says that the incident is under investigation. No police report available yet. Brandon Scott also says that he waited to call the police till after the event because he did not want to disrupt it. Okay, so Jack Young, who was not at the event, he released a statement. And he said that he is making reference to a partial video that has been circulating. And they're still calling it an altercation. So this is Jack Young, the mayor. Jack Young says, in light of the recent altercation between City Council President Brandon Scott and a volunteer of another campaign, you named him, so name the campaign. Name Sheila Dixon campaign. He has instructed the police to fully investigate this alleged assault of an elected official. All right. So what bothers me about this is that because he's an elected official, that makes it so he wasn't even hurt. So they're gonna take more resources to investigate this foolishness than they are against real situations that happen. This is gonna be a whole thing, and it is ridiculous. But like I said, it's gonna be a whole thing. Brandon Scott doesn't like Jack Young. Jack Young doesn't like Brandon Scott. Brandon Scott doesn't like Sheila Dixon. Sheila Dixon doesn't like Brandon Scott, nor does she like Jack Young. But they're gonna sit and they're gonna do this whole song and dance thing because this is an election time, and it is ridiculous, and it is a waste of resources and everything. Man up, Brandon Scott. Just ridiculous. Anyway, in this time, this is Jack Young. In this time, when politics can quickly become divisive and bitter, we must always appeal to our better angels. That this type of behavior displayed on the video capturing the altercation is disgusting and will be fully investigated. They've already said it's a partial video, so we don't have what happened before this alleged punch. You're just going to take this little part of the video? If you remember, I don't know if people remember, but there was a video that they had of a shooting that happened in New York once in a club. Maybe it was with a rapper or something like that. And then we had one part of the video that showed the rapper discharging the weapon, and people just like, oh my God, he shot the club. But then when they end up getting more footage to show some robbers and he had taken a gun from someone, and you know what I mean? It's just like you don't have the whole picture until you have the whole thing. You don't have the whole picture. But this guy, Michael T. Moore, he's not someone of, big notoriety, so he's not going to be believed. And Jack Young is going to bring the full weight of the police department down. This is typical. But he says, thankfully, Brandon Scott was not seriously injured, and so there have been Facebook threats back and forth. This is going to be a whole thing. So Scott and his communications director said that they spoke with Sheila Dixon Wednesday night at the event and with staffers of her campaign, who apologized and told Moore to leave. So there was a lot going on behind the scenes that we did not get a chance to see. The next day they said that they were expected to get the assurance from Dixon that Moore will no longer be working for her campaign. Maybe he can volunteer for somebody. So Jack Young's campaign. So punching a candidate running for mayor is serious. This is coming from the Scott campaign, and this needs to be dealt with we are going to have more of these forums. That's true. Oh my goodness, they're like, oh, maybe more is going to be waiting for Brandon Scott. Let's finish this. The sequel, right? So also concerning Scott's team, there were threatening posts on Facebook, which are still up to date, including one that says, if I knew you wanted to fight, I would have knocked you out and not tapped your jaw. So that's interesting. I mean, I don't think he wanted to fight. He wanted to tell the police. He didn't really want to fight. But Sheila Dixon, of course, the professional here, she says that this is unacceptable, which it is, given the way that Brandon Scott has spun it. But we're just assuming that what Brandon Scott said is true. So let's say that Brandon Scott, let's look at Mr. Moore's account. So let's say that Brandon Scott just came in trying to push past him. Is that acceptable for a political candidate, someone running for mayor, for him to just push past, some what he deemed as a menial person passing out flyers for one of his opponents? Is that acceptable behavior? What if he did push past him and then he swung at him? And clearly, if he wanted to hurt him, he would have actually hit him. How you swing and it's just kind of like a warning. And so it didn't really hit him. What about that? Can we investigate that? Michael T. Moore, you should file charges against Brandon Scott for assault since you want to play this game. Like, don't let them railroad you and turn Brandon Scott into some kind of martyr. Clearly he wasn't hurt, right? I'm just saying. So Sheila Dixon said that Moore has worked for her campaign in 2016, and she's had no dealings with him in the last years. The last thing that Sheila Dixon needs is another scandal. Staffers confirmed that photos showed him standing near Dixon at her campaign kickoff in December. Okay, so obviously it's somebody that she knows, but she said, look, if you're going to punch him, you should have covered your face. But interesting. So she says, it's not between her, whatever is between him and Brandon. I have no knowledge about that. And I believe that. She doesn't have any knowledge. So, but here's another interesting tidbit before we get out of here. They're also saying, this is coming from the Scott campaign, that Moore came to Brandon Scott last June seeking help with his motorcycle, which he said was impounded by the police, but Scott did not help him. And I don't know whether or not that had anything to do with any particular animosity. It was impounded by the police in Baltimore County, not Baltimore City, she said, and it was out of the jurisdiction of Mr. Scott. So as Moore tells it, there are other issues between the two guys, including a lawsuit over a charity he runs that names Scott and other city officials. So as we continue to probe into this, the two guys definitely know each other, but this being the next peg in this long-running feud and all of that. So don't take me wrong. My heart is pure, and I hate bullies with power. This is what Moore is saying about Brandon Scott as his latest encounter, as this whole thing is playing out. It is interesting. They're calling any witnesses that may have seen things to come forward, so get another account here. So they're saying someone else. I mean, everyone has different accounts, so okay. As Brandon approached, this is the account. Let's get the name here. What is this person's name? Okay, so they're saying as Brandon approached, this guy pushed him pretty hard, And Scott tried, supposedly to this person, Scott tried to walk around more and go inside the building, but the guy blocked his way and then hit him in like the face or shoulder, he said. Then he pushed him and swung and I think hit him again. So this is even different than what Brandon Scott is saying. This is Mr. Staten. So Staten said that he grabbed more and pulled Scott inside. I said, "What are you thinking? You can't put your hands on him," Staten said. There were 7 or 8 people who saw it, and they were amazed. I wish I was standing right there. Y'all are so lucky I wasn't standing right there. So that is the account. But let's keep in mind that this account is coming from people who are friendly with Brandon Scott. So the truth lies somewhere in the middle of both accounts, and we'll see how that goes. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. Of course, are you tired of being lied to? Are you tired of the mainstream media spinning stories? Then you must be ready for some honest, passionate dissection of the daily news. And that's what happens here on The Diamond K Show. Radio on Fire. And for continued viewing of our shows, radioonfire.com/join is where you go. I will see you guys tomorrow.